Start.
Sorry.
We'll start off with the approval of the agenda from last time. If we could get a motion on that.
You want to have items 8 and 9 moved up to right after public comment?
Yes, we can do that right after we approve the agenda. And public comment. We'll get through those first three.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I will move to approve, motion to approve tonight's agenda.
With the changes of 8 and 9 being moved up to after 5?
Correct. I will motion to approve the agenda tonight with items 8 and 9 being moved up after item 5.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Alrighty. Public comment. See if we have anyone on the line that would like to speak. Open to public comment. All of us. If anyone wants to speak as a public comment, they are more than happy to stand up now. Alrighty, we will close public comment. And then we'll move on here, approving the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I get a motion for that, please?
Meeting minutes from our last meeting. I don't remember the date. Thank you. May 24th, 2022.
Second.
Alrighty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, so as we agreed, we have 5, which is definitely next, and then we'll do 8 and 9. So 5, discussion and possible vote, resolution to change department name. Patty, I'll turn this over to you as you had submitted this. And I think it's pretty much a done deal already, but we just want to make sure we go through the proper process. So.
I was asked to do this by the county exec's office. It was just a preferred name change type thing. I think the agenda item report explains pretty much what we're doing, why, just more of a common term. I think it will help applicants understand better what our department does, because a lot of people say, what does IS mean? What does IS do? So, just FYI, the budget book was already adjusted to information technology. And also all of the signage in the cab building was updated. So I was told to bring this as a resolution to the board with my budget hearing. And so I'm bringing it to you guys first for a vote. I mean, it's all after.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it was basically a directive.
Yep, and if I recall from what I've talking on that, okay. Well, any further discussion on this?
I just have a question.
Sure.
With that being done, what is the expected costs that are going to be incurred by changing the names? Obviously, you're going to change signage, you're going to change business cards if you still have them, several other things that are incidental. So I mean, it's not a free cost, but there has to be some type of cost with this involved.
I think it's very minimal because my department prints our business cards and our letterhead as we use it, because we don't really have that much go out. So that's very minimal. The signage facilities did so, and it was the signs have removable strips, and it was literally a printed thing that they just rubbed our new name on there. So I'm thinking it's pretty minimal. I can't think of any other. We don't have, we have the wave sticker on the vehicle. There's nothing IT.
Right.
So I think it should be.
So it's insignificant.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, I would think for sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? Sure. Let's see if Mike wants. Alrighty, well then, we will move, make a motion, to change the department. Make a motion for that, please.
I would move that we change the department name to from Information Systems, Information Technology.
Alrighty, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, perfect. Alrighty, let us move. So we moved 8 and 9 up. Do we want to keep them in that order? Because I think 9 is probably gonna be more of a quicker vote. If we're looking at what it is, with the resolution on social media policy or the video storage. I think we can just go forward here, with the discussion and vote for number 9. Because that does include a vote at this time. Yes, correct. So Patty, if you want to enlighten us a little bit on that as well.
Okay, so again, this was a directive from the county exec's office, and it went to Eric Rasmussen in emergency management to do. He sought my help, but it was his project and he did most of this, so I think it's just going through the committees of jurisdiction. The big thing is we're encouraged more to use Facebook, and we're also using YouTube, and we really didn't have a policy per se. So this is something, in order to manage those outlets, I guess. And again, that's a wish of the county executive's office is really pushing and encouraging everyone to do the Facebook postings for all the departments. And then YouTube is how these recordings are going out, and there needs to be something to manage that as well.
Now, my question is, are you technically as IT, the department in charge of all the other departments and how they manage it, or is it department by department managing their own?
I believe it should be department by department managing their own, because again, I asked about IT doing this, and it was pretty much direct. He said, don't worry about it. Eric's got it. Eric did this. This is what we're going to use. And I think each department will kind of police or manage what happens on their own pages.
Yeah, so as soon as they're approved, then they control that. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that is accurate too. The Parks and Rec Department has had a Facebook page for quite a while. And they just manage it themselves.
Yeah, there's a bunch
Yeah.
out there that have
Yeah,
been
well,
around.
my hope was that you were not going to be the one who was on the hook. And I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
We're not loading your plate up with additional social media accounts to try to manage in some way, shape, or form.
That has been definitely discussed before, because we would have to have a person to full-time watch all the accounts, so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which again, insane amount of time to put onto that. So, okay, great.
And Supervisor Francoeur, you don't have any other concerns about like anything?
In this,
Yeah.
no, I mean,
Okay.
I've worked together with them. I think it's putting our best effort forward to give parameters and consequences and whatever to do this, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, this will be attached to each employee's packet that they have to sign
Right, so
as an addendum, or will they have to just re-sign?
I'm not sure how they're gonna do that. But once it's policy and it's referred to, as far as it's out there to be read and distributed, I'm not sure about the signing off on it.
Well, I'm thinking it has to be part of the employee handbook.
That's why we're making it policy. That's why we're going through the process for it to be policy, so it will be part of that handbook. There already is small amount of verbiage in there for social media, but this will be in the policy handbook then, once it's approved as policy.
And this will not impact the county board or other elected officials.
Does the handbook impact you guys?
I don't know. I've been out of this for a while. I'm asking a question.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think elected
No, we
are
don't
affected
get
by the
a-
handbook.
No, we don't get an employee handbook. You just kind of let loose.
But as the chairman of the board, being the department head for the county board, it would be him to oversee any well, I guess it'd be up to the county board if they want to adopt this in part of their rules of engagement, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And then it would be up to the county board chairman to oversee any violations of it.
Yeah, and I think that would more go almost in the camp too, is if the scenario was that each individual county board supervisor got their own social media account for the purpose of serving Winnebago County. Well, I'm pretty sure quite a few people would not want to do that. So I'll just start there, is realistically how many people would actually want to manage that, and then on top of on the chairman to steer that in the way that would be best applicable for everyone's budget. Yeah, at this point,
I'm just raising the.
yeah, absolutely. So that's a scenario that I would see that in, but I think just adjusted within the rules.
So Patty, has Marianne Moore looked at this? I take it.
Yes.
And my other question is kind of, so am I presuming that the departments would have to enforce this and do whatever, I don't know, punishment, I hate not that word, whatever, or would the HR have to do something? That's one of the questions, the department or the HR department?
The departments will be monitoring and managing. If it would lead to a disciplinary thing, then HR would certainly be involved. But it will start with the departments managing it, monitoring it.
So I'm gonna throw one other curveball into this. Based off of some knowledge I have on this. This is only dictating through the policy anything that is ran and used through the county for social media. In regards of public, I guess, publicly facing or what we have, because what I'm trying to get at is I know there are employees at another county that use social media for the purpose of research and for the purpose of kind of, I guess, being aware, kind of collecting some sort of information that they may need, and that may include them using their own social media. Is this just dictating what comes from Winnebago County directly, or is this encompassing also employee? Because it says employees, list of authorized employees that may manage social media profiles. Is that just for Winnebago County profiles that are created on behalf of the county itself, or is that technically authorizing the use of individuals for, technically would fall in the scope of county work, but isn't directly a county profile or account?
I think there is definitely verbiage in here that talks about if you use personal accounts and it's representing the county, that things apply to that of how, what you should and shouldn't do with personal accounts. There's definitely stuff in here with that.
Okay.
Maybe section 8.
8.2, did I?
Very much.
Obviously, it's if you're doing something that looks like you're representing the county or on behalf of the county, there's things that should and should not be done.
Absolutely. That's, again, I know it's off the wall one, so I wasn't quite sure if that technically would fall in this one as well. No. But yeah, if you're representing the county, which is that again, pretty much acting on behalf of the county. Okay.
I guess my only other concern then was 5.5.
As a whole, or just.
It just kind of makes it sound like employees are not able to like or not like posts or comments outside of working hours.
Yeah,
Do you see what I'm reading?
yeah, but it also then says authorized employees on behalf of the county.
Okay, so
So if they're using like,
if
let's say the
Parks
Parks and Rec,
Department can't not like.
they can't go out and like stuff
Yeah,
on behalf of that.
Okay.
account.
Okay, just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Yeah, not policing employees after
Especially on
hours.
their own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
be very daunting.
You know, not maybe-
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Record retention,
Covered.
yes, everything is protected by public records, it's required by law. So who is responsible for storing that?
We have a third party vendor that it goes through our system and goes to our archive, but a third party sets up a request that the admin or owner of the Facebook page has to approve. And then it goes to our archive and we have it for 7 years.
So that happens, put it up for the pages that are already set up and running.
We've done that every 6 months. I put out a notice to just blanket all departments and asks for any new or closed, if they've changed, if they've dropped and not using an account, so that we can kind of keep it clean. So I do that every 6 months. So we've got the ones that are out there too.
Empty dishwasher, hun. I do some work before I go on my run.
And was this, reviewed by corporate counsel as well?
Yes.
Alrighty.
And I do appreciate that you put a clause in there that content won't be removed. I appreciate that, so.
That it will not.
That it won't be removed.
Right, that was the input from Corp Counsel, actually, is, we shouldn't try to change anything, we can put requests to avoid profanity or, stuff like that, but we're not removing stuff per her instruction.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, can we get a motion for this resolution, please?
I will motion to approve the resolution on social media policy.
Second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Carries. Alrighty, then we're here for. That one needed a vote. I think the other items at this point are still in discussion. So that was those. We're good, covered on all the ones that needed that vote, so just so we're set. Let's see here. Do we want to start back to number 6 and go over the budget, or do we want to have that discussion? I'm more than happy to suspend the rules and continue discussion for those 2, 8 and 10. If you would like, I'll put that on.
We did do the agenda to have 8, so.
Okay. All right, let's do 8. Perfect. So discussion, video storage solutions for all recorded meetings per board term. So I believe based off the rule that was submitted when we originally approved it as well, that the retention of the recorded meetings were only up to the end of the current term. So that means these meetings will go on a pretty much a 2-year cycle where they are stored, and then next board comes in and I believe it's completely fresh slate and starts again. I know I had asked previously to kind of explore storage options. And Patty, I'm going to lean on you because you actually already kind of mentioned a little bit of a third-party storage entity that you are currently using for other retention purposes. And I wanted to just kind of get your thoughts around what you've seen that has worked, and then if you're able to also provide any sort of kind of data for us of based on that rule being implemented to up to pretty much this point, how much storage we have used due to these meetings being recorded and stored.
Well, first there is what I just mentioned with the social media archive. It's a third party that initiates the capture, but it still goes to our storage. So it's not being stored somewhere else. It's in our archive appliance. So there's that. The storage currently for these recorded meetings, we have an array of drives that we're capturing it on for one copy, and everything is going to YouTube. So that is the current second copy. YouTube is probably, it can be out there forever. It can also be they see something they don't like or it violates their policies and they take it down. So we have the copy on site of our own. As far as the amount, I don't think we have enough history. It's only been a few months that we've been doing this, and there have been lots of struggles, errors. People don't capture, they turn it on and then turn it off, and there's 10 minutes of something and then black screen for an hour and a half. There's some that get audio only and no video. So there's a lot of stuff to, kinks to work out yet. I would say like in 6 months or maybe a year, we could estimate. The device we have with the array of drives is ample size right now we should not have to worry about it. But at 6 months and a year, we'll probably look at it for our own sake and monitor how much it's grown and how big and all of that, because we should get a good cycle then after. Right now, we only have a few months and it's still glitchy with everyone getting it done correctly.
You have, based off of how these are being recorded, what's the format that these are being saved as, or I guess what do we have some sort of idea? Because I know the board rule just says recorded. And so with that being said, obviously storing something in 720p compared to 1080p is going to be smaller. And so ultimately, is there, I guess, an opportunity, or have you seen any sort of, ability for us to save these, let's say these recordings to, let's say 720p, which still makes it HD, but also obviously ultimately covers that it's smaller, so we're able to not run into that, let's say that cap down the road a lot sooner than we anticipated.
Sure. I think it's all been pretty standard, aside from one. I think this maybe committee did, or maybe you did it on a different one where somehow it was screen captured.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
was
we
it?
didn't have permission to record the meeting.
So that one
So I
was
screen
the biggest one
recorded.
we've had so far.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's pretty, again, I think once we get a good history that has cycled through the meetings enough, I think that's when we'll look at everything and decide if there's recommendations or project how much it will be through a year kind of thing.
Yeah, do you think based off the current board rule of just being from term to term, that I guess will that alleviate the need for let's say an additional or much more storage than we already currently have?
I don't know if I'm following because aren't there all different?
So there's actually a
Terms?
Wisconsin state statute. We have to keep records for 7 years.
Mary Ann Miller did confirm 7-year retention.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that was kind of a toss up between what the rule was versus what the actual state statute is. So obviously,
And what, just for my own sake, what does it mean with per board term? It's because aren't they all mixed? Aren't you guys all staggered?
I think
Quite a
it's
bit.
every
I mean,
2 years.
My motion, motion or rule would have said, let's keep them until April of 2024. no, we're all elected, serve in 2-year term. And then Marianne Miller and Patty, you're correct that we had to have it for 7 years and not just for every 2 years. So yeah, she's correct there. That's where that term of, so I was wrong again, and I admit that, but so yeah.
Well, thank you, for, clearing that up, Supervisor Norton. Yeah, so, okay, so that was my misconception too. So we're looking at the 7-year rather than, let's say, the 2-year cycle. Okay.
And I think that was previously written in from past years too, so I think there was confusion and no one really checked, so.
From the standpoint of, there's a couple things you could approach this like, obviously you have the 7-year retention. That's not debatable.
Right.
However, on the Winnebago County website, you may be choosing only to put 2 years on at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But that if they want to go out to YouTube, that should be out there unless, like Patty said, you got to strike against something and it's taken down
Sure.
and gone through that process. But until they change their model, and there's no reason that Google can't,
Mm-hmm.
that they could, after so much, they will take it down eventually. But at this point, that would be if you want to see 3 years ago, you go to, you got to go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Or you can put something in the disclaimer that's where you have to go if you want to look at older meetings.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if that makes a difference from your standpoint because you're still going to retain it.
I mean, we can look at some options that have like the near line and the offline kind of thing where we would put it somewhere else where it was just slower to get to, but the most recent 2 years are right there or something. So that's another thing we can do as well and still have the 7 years. Just 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be slower to get.
Yeah. Do we use any cloud storage right now? I know you guys are moving into like the new office stuff.
I'm sure there are a few apps out there, but nothing like countywide or nothing for our files, our Active Directory, nothing like that. That's going to happen as we go to 365.
Okay.
So I know there's been discussion, as you said, that they're being uploaded to YouTube. Is there another platform, or have we explored any sort of other hosting services beyond YouTube to potentially upload to as well?
No. I mean, we haven't explored.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
probably
yeah,
options.
there's plenty of, that's why I just didn't know if that was, obviously, it seems the big choice in the room obviously is YouTube, but I know there's been, as you said, let's say YouTube wants to change their policies. Is it, advantageous for us to potentially find another platform that may have something more along the lines that, if we are looking for additional storage as well, in kind of a way that we're able to keep it up on their websites, pretty much almost no matter the policy, but policy change, I get that. So
It'd be interesting because basically there's not a lot of long form video sites that would allow for that length of the meetings and stuff. So we may be limited anyways in that standpoint. Because I'm sure TikTok is not going to.
No, and I think Vimeo caps it at like 2 hours as well. My only other suggestion would be a Dropbox, where it would just be a separate cloud storage where people could still watch the videos. It's not live. You can't do like watch parties with people per se, but you could still access, download. It could still be organized. That's the only thing I don't love about YouTube. It's when Oshkosh Media posts our videos, they're not organized. It's just everything that happened. So.
I mean,
Okay.
something we can look at if it's desired for.
Yeah. Well, again, if it's just, that's the other thing, it's more of just that proofing and maybe even having another opportunity to have it out there. So we have that redundancy of, for uploading it to YouTube, we're also trying to upload it to something else as well as keep our storage. I don't know, technically it's 2 sources, I believe, for what our requirements are to store that video, correct? Or for any of these files.
I'm not sure if that's 2 would be a requirement for backup, but I don't know if there's any other requirements that we have more. We have all of our critical stuff. We have 3 copies at least for a ransomware option, so. Or a solution, I'll say.
Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, so we'll just keep that on our radar as we approach, and then I said, once we kind of get that historical data, that would be obviously ideal for us to move forward with what kind of solutions we may need to address. So,
Actually, I do have one question.
Sure.
A few meetings ago, the chairman asked about a report in the IT committee, was it involving this?
yes, yep, he did mention this. I'm under, again, assumption at this point that there was urgency directly in the matter of how we're storing this and if we have enough storage. Based off of our conversation we just had, seems like we're in a decent spot right now. So for especially the meeting next week, when I give my report, I will bring that up as well.
So that was my next question, how do we
Yep.
present that update?
Yep, so when they ask for chairman's report next week, I'll be able to present that and let them know that that discussion was had and we are in a good spot going into this right now. So.
And Patty, you have checked with what the city of Oshkosh does and Marathon County does and city of Green Bay does, because they do similar to what we do. They tape, just not record not just the board meetings or the business meetings, they also record many of their committee meetings. So you have checked what they did. And I know I sent an email months ago to Tom Egan and to you. I thought of what the city of Oshkosh does, right? So on this, I've checked into it a little bit. I mean, but I'll let you decide because you're the director.
Right, I'm assuming that like you were saying with the urgency of the report, it was if there would be a cost maybe for more storage. So yes, we're at a good point right now. We feel comfortable waiting for some of that history to show us what trends and what projections we can make with the sizes. And maybe we can change file, recommend a different file size and all of that.
And I did see Oshkosh Media now when they upload our videos, it's in 480 quality, so. Which,
Might as well, it's still
like when
recorded.
you've got like a 6-hour long
Yeah.
video to
Those-
upload, I don't.
And that's what I said, there's no parameter on the
No.
quality of the video. as
No,
long as
no,
it's
I thought it was a
recorded.
very smart choice, because I can't imagine how long it would
Yeah.
take to upload a 6-hour video.
Even at 720.
No.
So,
720.
alrighty,
Before we leave this, Nate, can I ask a question?
absolutely.
And maybe you can get it later. Patty, do we have a policy of when the meeting should be uploaded and put on the YouTube channel? I mean, and I'm trying to be reasonable. I'll give a week. And I'm saying this because I know a few weeks ago, I noticed that the Parks Committee from August was in, hey, Adam, and he said, Mike, I'm sorry, I forgot. So I guess, have you thought about having some kind of a general policy to try to get, meetings that are recorded on both on the website and the YouTube channel in a somewhat timely manner? I mean, I'll give you a week, but I've seen some meetings, it seems it takes like longer than that to get them uploaded. So is there a policy, and you think there should be kind of a general policy of doing this?
Well, I'm gonna take a stance to defend my department a little bit because I think the process is to put them in a specific file location and then we upload it ASAP. We're actually working to automate it. There was a reason we were holding back on automating it, and part of it was the policy, the social media policy. So I think the delay is coming from when the committee has their meeting and when they save the file out to where we take it and upload it. Because I think we do it pretty much daily and again, we're automating it. So it's going to be as soon as they pop it out there, it's going to be taken care of. But
Patty, I'm not blaming you or your department. Like I said, the Parks Department is the Parks Director who took 3 weeks to upload it. So I'm not, by all means, I'm not blaming the IS department. I'm saying other departments, if they forget, or some forget or whatever, it's their response. I get that. I'm just saying, so I'm not blaming Patty. I'm not putting the blame on the ISD, okay? I want to make that perfectly clear.
Okay,
I'm just seeing, you know, why other departments, some departments takes a long time. You just explained, and if this can be automatic, because I will say that's one thing I noticed with the Marathon County and the city of Green Bay and the city of Oshkosh, a little bit different in those cases could be, you know, they have a meeting and it's up within the next, either that same day or the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's very reasonable. I'll give you a few days to the department person to get it to you and get it uploaded. But that's a little my concern. So thank you for that answer. I just want to echo that or say that my concern. Thank you, Patty.
so I don't know if that should be, you know, something with the board rules again, if,
That's-
where it would be tightened up in the,
Generally, isn't that is it the secretary of the committee slash board or whatever that does that, or is that somebody that's actually staff?
It typically it's staff because like I don't have access to where the recording ends up, for example.
Just curious on that because, you could tie it to, like, as an example, it's required that you have the meeting minutes to the clerk's office within 10 days of the meeting being completed. You could also tie it should be to wherever it needs to be within 10 days of the meeting being completed. That way it's consistent, you know, as a policy throughout the county, and everybody knows.
Yeah, that's probably something we could definitely look at within the rule itself as well. I think that would probably be the best way of approaching that. So again, so it's on us as, you know, committee members or the committee chairs to get that to IT because yeah, I want to be very clear too. I hope no one is blaming you for any of that slowness for the reason of it is on us to get that to you. And then like I said, I know that can be.
and you might have to clarify, like, who has the, like, tonight it's me, because it's my Zoom account is gonna be locally on my device. So I will put the file to where it's supposed to go. But I don't know on the other committees who does it, or, you know, if it is the department head doing it, if with the, whoever has the Zoom account, or,
Could be 20 different ways.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
No, I do share Supervisor Norton's concerns though, because it is really frustrating when you can't get to a meeting in person and you want to watch it. And then 4 weeks later, no one sent it over. So it's just kind of in limbo.
I think it kind of comes back to that, I guess, for us too, as county board supervisors, especially accountability loop and reaching out to the chairman of those committees. About, I guess, in that regard of, hey, you had this meeting, we're trying to find it. It's clearly not uploaded. Let's say it's a week out already as well, you know, giving them appropriate time to get it out there as well. But if we're not seeing it, a little bit of that for now until we get some sort of change within the board rules. So.
I just think that's kind of a gray area, because if I'm understanding correctly, it's staff that has access to the shared drive where these videos are kept until IT posts them. It's not the chair of the committee. And so while I understand the intent of timely posting of these meetings, of these videos, the county board and its committees are not in charge of staff, right? So it's a fine line to me, and I think we need to tread lightly.
And I guess also personally, I would say coming from like my standpoint, so a chair of this committee, if someone was to reach out to Main Bay, hey, the meeting's not out there yet. Why is that? Well, I'm going to follow up because obviously I think it's in the best interest of our committee to get that out there so people have access if people are trying to seek it. And so that's where it's, yes.
And I think that's different. That's different and an acceptable process versus putting it in the county board rules. It doesn't belong there, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the county board rules are for the county board, they're not for staff.
Correct.
If you go back, if I can comment, sorry. If you go back to your thought on, or your comparison to getting the minutes out there, and that's designated or specified in the rules, that falls to many different people as well. It
It's
would,
not always the,
it can be the committee
right.
or
Yeah.
the staff as well doing that. So, I mean, that's already an example that there's
Yeah.
the same thing you're
I think
concerned about.
minutes though are different, it's different territory than this video policy. This video policy is above and beyond what's required by law. Minutes are required by law, and yes, they should be taken care of, posted in a timely fashion. This is above and beyond that, and it really does require a lot of work by a lot of people to make this happen. And time. Time.
Sure. Ultimately, as I said, the goal is a lot of what I think ultimately, I mean, from what we saw from the resolution from Supervisor Norton is just having the additional transparency of everything we do. And I think we're in a time right now where that is critical. And so if it is going to take a little bit more time, I think it's worth it if that means that people are able to see what's happening, even if they weren't physically able to attend that meeting or obviously jump on the Zoom at that time. So yeah, I think it's going to be something we're going to tread here for a little bit and figure out obviously what's the best solution. I might even kind of pull the committees and kind of figure out, and obviously discussing with you and your staff and figuring out what you would feel would be the smoothest way of finding some sort of, almost I want to say a chain of custody relatively of the video or of the minutes or what we'd want to do, and make sure that maybe setting some sort of standard going forward. So then it doesn't matter which committee it is, who's doing it, as long as there's the kind of identifying the point person and then what that looks like.
I mean, ideally, whoever is recording, whoever closes down that computer would be forwarding the video to the shared drive before they shut that down. I mean, ideally, that's what would happen. But apparently that's not the case right now. So.
that is true.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same person every time, so they're starting to get familiar, or if it ends up being a different person and they're kind of unfamiliar and have to get the directions or whatever, so.
So when we say, I just want to clarify too, when we say staff, are we talking someone from IT? Or are we just talking just in general, Winnebago County?
Probably the department heads or whoever's with the committee.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's where we'd really have to hone in because of the fact of, yeah, I don't know. I would agree though, I don't know if a board rule would technically solve that for us in any way or shape or form. So it'd almost be like a policy that would have to be constructed that then could be approved and then sent to the board for approval.
Or a procedural directive or something. I don't know what, if it, I'm not sure which one of those makes more sense.
Perhaps as we move through this, and you, more of the history becomes available, we can jot these things down as well, and then think about what a policy might look like. So like it's kind of working backwards. I always thought we should have a policy before going this way. But then we can start to adjust some of these things once that history is developed.
There's just not enough data yet. Plus, I don't believe you're gonna see the planning and zoning committee having owl and band
Right.
when they're out viewing. So
Right.
I mean, there are gonna be some exceptions to the rule where you're not going to be able to video. It's just that simple.
And we do have a clause in there that excuses if you're not in a building, recordings don't have to happen. so.
But maybe we could buy one of that TV, an old TV station van and repurpose it just for that. With the big antenna and everything.
It's going right around.
Oh,
All meeting meetings.
no.
Oh, no.
Almost like a comedy waiting to happen.
I'm gonna send that over to NBC.
Yeah, right now. Alrighty. Yeah, I think kind of got the gist of what we're looking at for that. We'll have something to report back to the chairman next week. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of keep a kind of eye on that as we move forward. And if, not asking you, but if you do see like kind of a trend in anything with the videos that are coming in, if it's coming from like, let's say a department head, or just having some knowledge of that going into when we go to recap the data would probably be good, because then we can kind of move forward with how we want to do a procedural, obviously kind of talk, or if we want to implement some sort of policy or along the lines of that. So just some pretty high level stuff in that regard. So alrighty, any further discussion? Alrighty, so we'll just keep that on the table for further discussion. All right. Now, since we moved 8 and 9 forward, we are going to now go back to the regular order of the agenda, which will bring us back up to number 6, which is the 2023 IT budget discussion. So,
I mean,
floor
this
is
is, this is a little probably delayed as well, because we had the executive hearing already and everything, but just wanted to, there's a couple of points I wanted you guys to definitely be aware of. So I think, you know, all of us were asked to have a 0 increase from last year and then add requests. So I met the no increase, and we had one add request, which was also at the request of the county executive's office. His goal is for more paperless, and he wanted to have an electronic document coordinator. So we actually submitted another position request, and it was denied, but we do have $50,000 was put in our professional services to, it actually says for a consultant for the problem, you know. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with that, because we know what the problem is. We need the time of somebody to go create the logic of how to structure the indexing of whatever data you have, and then scan. Because if you look at Corp Council right now, where they just moved, there are file cabinets and file cabinets of paper, and they definitely want, one of their ad requests is a software application that is going to manage their cases, and that was approved. So they're going to need to get all that stuff electronic so they can utilize this software to, the hope is to go in, you know, into court or whatever and say case 1, 2, 3, here's all my stuff that's associated with case 1, 2, 3. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna, but I want you to know that's what happened. So we had we had our 0, we met our target. We had this ad request denied, and then 50,000 put in our professional services. So we'll do something with that for paperless, but I don't know exactly how we'll
So
use it yet.
this is to take, like, use Corp Council as an example, to turn all of their paper files into electronic files. And you were allotted $50,000 to do that,
No,
Or-
it's,
to contract.
it actually says as a consultant to study the problem, but that's what it says in the my documentation for the budget book. Yeah, so again,
Look around.
we know the problem,
I'm
and
agreeing with you right now.
the original request was a person to do this, you know, and we would teach them the imaging system. They would then work with the departments on the logic for indexing and then scan. And And that's, pay me that consultant fee, please.
Because I attended obviously that budget meeting with you. Was there any, I guess, reason for the denial of that position? Was there any reason given, or was it just snapped?
I got a list that said the project denied and 50,000 was put in the professional services account, so I don't know. I mean, that was the whole list of all the ad requests. It was probably just priority, with all the other ad requests.
Yeah, because I find it very interesting that $50,000 to identify the problem, but we already know the problem. Pretty much know the problem. So
Mhm.
is that 50,000 for someone that would have had the same capacity? Let's say of who you might have hired, who would have went around, shown the departments maybe how to digitize their files or actually do it themselves hands-on with a lot of the departments. Or are we just hiring someone and be like, yeah, that needs to be scanned? I will personally follow up with executive Dale on that one.
I mean, that's gonna be hard, be hard to find even like a project or a temp person to do that.
Exactly. And
We
that's,
can't hire them for full-time regular positions. Who's gonna wanna just do a 2-year stint on scanning or whatever?
correct.
So,
Correct. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's riveting. If you don't know scanning, it is beyond.
there is a difficult, important, strategic part in determining the indexing, because once you say, I'm going to capture this data in this way, and you start scanning everything, and then you go, oops, I really need this other piece, and to be able to search on this kind of field, you have to start over. So you have to build your structure to scan into, and that's the big critical part, and the time consuming. And then it's just manual, tedious labor.
Well, that's the other factor is, let's say you finally hammer down the structure of how you actually want to store it. And you start, let's say today, and everyone going from today has to digitize anything they do. But then you also have all the historical that you have to go back and try to digitize as well. So you're adding what's already happening as well as trying to backtrack and cover all that. So that will
It's
be
a major approach because we at Homestead, before I went out back on my own, back scan everything. And I mean, we were going forward, but then the back scan was going on simultaneously. And it is not a fun task to go through. And they were using a product called ImageRite or Image. I can't think of the name, but Image something. And so that they could manipulate the data after they've scanned it. So they do not have any file cabinets there anymore. So that's the goal, to
Yes.
eliminate paying for storage, the maintenance of the documents, and obviously you're probably using DocuSign as well, or in some shape or form on stuff that needs to be. Or is that another part of the piece that you need to?
No, there are some departments that are using it, but it's very limited so far.
Okay. I just got rid of my fax today, so I'm happy. I don't expect it. That's a digression.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Just again, just so you,
$50,000 might get you a plan, but it's not gonna get you
It's
a
not gonna
scan.
be-
yeah, so I'm not sure what'll happen with that, but and then a second more concerning thing for me is with the technology replacement fund. And that one's harder to understand, and I don't want to speak too far beyond where we are, but because I asked for a meeting with the county executive, the finance director, the DOA, maybe a couple other staff in finance like Carol Buchholz, to go over this again. We always meet periodically with the finance director because we do a projection out where we can see what this fund does. And it's kind of a little bit cyclical, where some years it might be negative, and it's actually just carved out of the general fund. kind of designated to us. And I don't know if I know enough about it, but anyway, it's not a separate account, but it's designated for this purpose since 2000. I believe it started in 2000. So we put a general amount. The whole goal was to smooth out the levy request. So we try to get the same amount asked for every year. And some years we spend more, so it goes negative, and then other years we spend less, so we build the account back up, and it just kind of, try to keep it as level as we can. Well, unfortunately, with prices and all the changes we've had, it's been on a more of a trajectory of staying negative. So that's where we would have periodic meetings with the finance director, and we would do a projection 10, 20 years, even though that's somewhat meaningless in IT. But we could show that, hey, we need to change that stable amount we're asking for. Well, this year, we had been asking for 880 some thousand for many years. And the last few years, we bumped it to $1 million because of leveling out the levy request. Well, this year they took actual, and the account would have grown by 230 some thousand. And they took that away. So what I want you guys to be aware of is perfect. We're only asking for what should be in what we're going to spend. But next year, we've been asking for $1 million, and now I got 700 and whatever, 730 some thousand. So next year, if I need 1.5 million, now I'm gonna have to ask for 800,000 more then. So that's, I'm not sure. And again, I don't want to speak too far ahead because we haven't met. I've asked for a meeting, and it's they want it after the budget stuff's all, taken care of. So sometime in November.
Okay.
So that we can, because I don't understand. I understand what they did, but I don't understand what that means for our process that has been happening since 2000. So that's,
Was that a process that you, I don't know how long you've been.
I can better address it since I was the chairman at the time that why we did it.
Okay,
Basically, not her predecessor, but her predecessor's predecessor went out and bought over 200 units, computer units at one time, which was a shock to the system, so to speak, when it came to budget time. Obviously, that's a lot of infrastructure, and you should not be bonding for computers. Simple as that. And so what we looked at doing was create a mechanism in order to have, instead of having this roller coaster ride when we needed new servers, new computers, new hardware of some shape or form.
and licensing
And licensing, yeah, absolutely. What we did is we kind of made it go like this. There's some years you'd have more going out, some years you'd have less going out, but it would not hit the levy as hard every year because you'd have these spikes. And that was the intention when we created it. And as far as I know, it's worked great for the last 20 years. So it's done what we asked it to do. However, obviously, with the times are changing, so to speak, we're not doing a 3-year cycle on Microsoft Office. We are doing subscriptions. We are now it's changing. We're going to a subscription base where you're going to get a little bit at a time versus these up and downs on the licensing itself. Hardware is still pretty much the same way. I don't think that's changed, has it?
No,
Okay,
so,
exactly.
well, the account is based completely on our inventory. It's what we have for technology assets
so
throughout
hard stuff
and licensing,
and like.
because you need the license to utilize your hardware. One example though, with a spike right now is when we got the money with COVID and we bought 450 laptops in one shot. Now those age out at the same time. So there will be a little bit of a spike there. And I've already been asked to smooth that out. So what that means is I either have to, I'll say, waste a couple years of life and replace some earlier, or cross your fingers and run them longer. So, you know, that's a difficult thing to smooth out as well, but yeah, so I have to figure out what happened with, because the money that we ask to spend, we have our inventory of all the assets, all the devices, and we have the age, when they age out and they just come up every year, they're due. So like, we don't control, you know, when things age out. They're assigned, if it's a PC, they're assigned this many years. If it's a Switch, it's assigned this many years. And they just come up. So one year we might ask for 500,000, one year we might ask for 1 million.
So
And
those come out of the IT budget.
well, it's a separate, it's a technology replacement fund. It's our responsibility, but it's not it's separate from my operational costs.
That comes up generally.
Okay, but who puts the money into the technology replacement fund? Are those just levy dollars?
Yes.
Yes.
What we want to spend are levy dollars, yes.
Okay. So. At the Save Menasha, we actually account for each department's IT costs. So those get charged out to the department. And they show up in that department's budget. So when the police department, I'll use them as an example, because I'm sure it's comparable to the sheriff's department, the biggest technology user in the city, when they need new PCs, those show up in their budget. And their line for computers or something, and it shows up in their levy. And it's the same for the, like the community development department, they're charged for their things. Public Works, they're charged for their things. So we see that as a way to track each department's actual IT costs. And the IT department still has the replacement schedule and all of that, and they manage that. And it all gets charged out to the departments. So those departments are managing their actual IT costs, so to speak, in their budgets. And so it's all levy dollars. It's a different way of tracking the costs. I don't know what that would do. Like if the county adopted that, I don't know what that would mean for department budgets.
Oh, I'm happy to help you.
Well, probably.
But it
Um,
does make them a lot more conscious of their spending habits when it comes to technology asks. Because a lot of times it's reaching out to IT, that we need this, because worked IT enough where it's all the departments are coming to you and be like, we need this. They don't realize a lot of times if you are, let's say, the bearer of the cost, what that looks like for, you know, how that spreads out across all the departments. If one department may be kind of a squeaky wheel, if you will, that is requesting a lot of technology needs and are getting them, and then maybe in the long haul that is shorting other departments from their needs. So
It also makes the city council way more aware of who uses the technology, how much it really costs, right? No one's ever said no to radios or computers or whatever's needed, but it's a true reflection of the actual cost and what it takes to make those things run. And then there's the global cost of the, and I don't quite know how the subscription and all of that works. The servers and switches are still maintained by the IT department, and that's like the global budget, I think, because everybody uses those things. If that makes sense.
well, I know there's different methodologies for charging back. I know how City of Neenah works. They take all those global things and divide them out as well. So they come up, or they try to come out to like a zero budget. This has been also talked about for a long time.
As long as 25 years ago.
Yeah, all of the new requests, any new technology requests, like let's say I decide I have 10 people who all have a PC, but they also want a mobile device. And that's how I want it to be done. I want them to have it on their desk, and any new stuff like that falls on the department. So they can't just say, hey, this is what we want. It's ridiculous, but we want 2 devices and one's going to sit there and one I can take home if I want, or, you know, where you can take the mobile one and use it both ways. We would never double up. But if they demand that, and that's what they say they need to do their job, all of the new stuff, even if I just say if I would have got my electronic document coordinator position approved, I would have to buy them their first workstation. And then it goes into our inventory and life cycle stuff, and it comes out in this technology replacement for the actual replacements. So there is a deterrent, I'll say,
Sure.
to going crazy with,
Yeah, but that sounds to me like it's just 1 year.
yeah, it's true.
That's just it.
But we have the inventory. I know finance sees the breakdown of everything, so I know they could easily do something with it. And maybe they do. I don't know enough of that part.
I guess it's just being the devil's advocate. It's easier to say, oh, we'll take it from the technology replacement fund because there's less accountability there. Nobody knows exactly what piece you're taking from whom and why. You know,
Well,
it's just, it's viewed as a pot of money.
it's
No.
very specific. It's all itemized. It's all spent. It's all on the inventory. Now, we could change if there's 50 PCs that are aging out and there are people who don't need to have them replaced yet or what. I mean, that would be a
Yeah,
manipulation, but not.
That's how you see it in the department. I understand that, but for someone who's taken the 10,000 foot view of the budget and sees line item 80.000145 technology replacement fund, oh, that's an easy place to take a few dollars from. That's what I'm saying, without much accountability from that person saying, well, here's an easy place to take a couple $1,000.
I guess are you saying like to lower the levy request and just hit that account? Because I mean, everyone knows how it works that is involved. Finance director, county exec, everyone knows that and we have a spreadsheet 1,000,000 miles big to itemize all of the inventory and show the ages and everything. It's all accounted for. Every bit of what we ask to spend out of that account. If it does get changed, then yes, we have to show what was spent differently. But I mean, I guess I hear you if you just see one line item and a number, but everyone involved with touching that account knows how it works as well.
And the downside of not replacing the equipment is loss of productivity.
Or higher repairs, parts having to be replaced, those kind of things. Cost of ownership goes up, I guess. But again, this year was different in how it was treated, so, but we don't have the finance director during this period of developing it, and so, yeah,
There have been times where the county executive made a unilateral decision not to fund it to where it should have been, and that's their prerogative. However, it cost us later.
It always does.
Yep. Are we gonna kick that can down the road? Probably not. So,
those were my 2 points, I guess, just wanted to make sure the electronic documents thing and this technology replacement. Otherwise, we met our goal. And
It's hard to do
Yeah.
in IT.
yeah,
I would have been panicking, so.
Applaud you for that one, for sure, so. Alrighty. Do you want to just go on to your report?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a copy? Could you email me a copy of the budget? Because it's not in the packet.
sure. It's also on the website. If
Oh, it is.
There's
Okay,
the
never mind.
executive budget is on the website.
Okay,
so-
thank you.
And you can get our section out there.
Do we get physical copy of the budget?
Yes.
That up in those meetings?
Yes, I believe we do. I was in contact with the chairman about that, and I believe they will be sent out shortly.
We have our first budget meeting on October 31st, so I'm guessing it'd be the
I
Friday.
know they're, yeah, but I know it is completely published now on the website. It is out there, so if you want to get a
Digital copy though.
digital copy is out there. Yep. So I was called and informed about that, so.
Yeah, so just a few points, I guess, because we've been, for a while, we were talking about not being fully staffed, and so we're happily fully staffed for a while here now. So that's great, and I know a lot of other departments are struggling, so I'm grateful every day. We just finished connecting the new Parkview Training Center with the fiber, so that they should be set. The equipment that needs to go in to make them work is lead time is long. So it's been ordered. It's still, we're waiting. What we're running into, and this is more minutia of our procedures, but like if they say we want to move into that building, and I haven't gotten a date yet, but if they just say, October 31st, we want to go live in that building, and we don't have what we've ordered to plug them in, we've been trying to steal, beg, make somewhere else where we can consolidate or whatever and make them live. But then what happens is, like, let's just throw numbers out. We paid $100 for this box we're putting in there. They ordered one for $50, and now we get the $50 one and yes, we can switch it out if it ever comes in. But we've actually had a couple orders that went a year and didn't receive it, so we canceled it and started over with a different vendor or whatever. So it's getting a little mucky with that. So we're still waiting on equipment, even though the fiber's done and tested. So just a kind of a FYI of things are happening with the whole supply chain.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Yep. We're working on the fiber loop. We have the engineers, and I would say they're 50% done. They told me they would be 100% done by the end of the year, because I asked them because carryovers and all of that. And then we have in the CIP, the actual installation of the fiber loop for next year. It's on the ARPA list, I guess, so I don't know. And the initial engineering that's been done is showing us that what we estimated is way under. I thought what I estimated was a combo of aerial and underground, and the way we're gonna go, it's from the cab to the sheriff's office is our main catch, the critical, give us a loop with the critical functions. If we go from cab west, it's all of the downtown, and trying to get somewhere is like next to impossible. And that's kind of our current route. We go up Jackson, over to Main, up Main to Snell and on. So we want to go east, and we threw out Bowen Street to go north, and Bowen and anything close to parallel is we have to go all underground. So there are two ways I can reduce it. There's the original path has 144 strands of fiber. we can do 144 strands, which is what I would like for a redundant loop, but we can cut it in half by what's lit up and not have dark fiber and shave like 70 grand off. And then also I have worked with the city of Oshkosh. They want to get from Fire Station 18 to Fire Station 19, which is corner of Murdoch and Bowen to Snell, the one out.
By the prison.
And that would, and they're all on board. That would save us, and I'm not 100% on the number, but it's like 145,000. Asterisk.
Yeah.
Somewhere close to that. And so that should, those are two things we can do, working on the loop. But if it does come out of ARPA and we get the full amount, then, we save. I would do 144 strands then and save with the city's portion.
And what was that estimated cost if it was the 144 strand?
For the installation only part, it was like 640,000.
And what, I guess, what's the, if we need 144 strands later and we'll put in 80.
Yeah, that it would be the same cost because
Yeah,
it's a
it's
labor, it's
later.
the labor,
Yeah.
So,
the
Okay.
material is incrementally small compared to the labor of doing it.
sure.
So, if we do 144 or 70, this cable itself isn't the big cost, it's the labor
Sure.
and the terminating. So,
Okay.
yeah, which is all labor. So, and then I know we've talked about the website for a little bit and that is live and we had some glitches, but I think we would have had a lot of the same ones with a vendor doing it. Changing IP and all the caching and stuff that has to happen with that. And then, trolling and there's just a whole bunch of stuff that happened that smacked our server right away. And so, they're doing a great job monitoring and we gave it a bunch of more resources, memory and processing to make it happier. But I think we'll pare those down as we figure out the bugs and what's going on. But I think it's been good again for several weeks, no complaints and stuff. So that was a huge project, all done by almost essentially one. I mean, yes, there was a lot of us helping, but one staff did a lot of it.
Excellent.
So
Thank you very much. Alrighty, our last discussion topic we have here for tonight is the opportunity to possibly vote for a new vice chair. So obviously, we have gotten communication that Supervisor Peschel had resigned, which now has left a vacancy on this committee. I've already gotten word that they are working quite quickly to probably fill that vacancy with another county board member. So at this time, just as we have this vacancy. I was thinking probably after that is filled, we can go ahead and nominate and vote for a new vice chair from that position. Just want to kind of put that on our radar that that's coming down the pipeline. But at this time, I think once we get that full board again, I think we'll be set to go and make that kind of decision. So with that said, for the next meeting, I guess I'm going to kind of, I know we were kind of looking at almost a quarterly angle at this. Patty, I was just going to ask you straight out, do you think there's a potential need for a meeting to be held this year yet? If not, if there's anything coming down the pipeline that would be ideal for us to convene? If not, it would be probably looking at the beginning of the new year.
I don't think so. A lot of what we probably would run into is if we have a multi-year contract. And if that is something, generally it's a no-brainer kind of thing, like it's AT&T and they only offer 5 years and we're not gonna not do it. So if I did have something, maybe we could do a 15 minutes before a board meeting or something if needed, but I don't foresee anything else right now.
The next one I have on my calendar is January 12th.
Correct.
Yep.
January 12th, 2023.
So we're thinking that's okay?
We're thinking that's probably good. That's why I just wanted to bring it up, because I know, I think that's what we had tentatively. But just want to make sure we're not obviously missing anything that would make one to come together here on that, so.
Are you guys okay with that? If I
Yeah.
say like, we ran into something where a contract is multi-year and I gotta have it and we could just do it.
Please do,
Okay.
please do reach out.
Just do a
Yeah.
call and share.
Yep.
Okay, fine with that. Supervisor Norton, are you okay with that too?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, yes.
I,
Alrighty.
Will we be going at different locations going forward here, being that generally we've met at the?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been the opportunity to utilize other spaces that we have. Especially, I mean, this is pending,
Mhm.
kind of getting that connected, but finding another opportunity, I mean, even coming out to, if there's opportunity somewhere where we have another building, whether it's obviously Oshkosh, which is always nice, having something up here, just kind of to have other opportunities so people,
Yeah, not against it, I was
Yeah,
just curious.
yeah, absolutely. It was a nice little change up, I think, so. But at this time, I think we may just leave that up for, just leave that out now, and then we'll try to step in the middle.
that sounds good.
So, alrighty, so then can we get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I'll second.
Alrighty, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay.